This is GTV. Get on. On April 12, 1987, the animated TV show Akai Kodan Zillion debuted in Japan on Nippon TV, Ni Tella for short. A thrilling sci-fi adventure about three young soldiers fighting off an alien invasion in a high-tech futuristic world. The show was a co-creation of Tatsunoko Productions, one of Japan's most popular studios, and Sega Enterprises, a popular video game and toy company. The collaborative process Sega embarked on, beginning in 1987, is known in Japan as a media mix venture. The result was 31 episodes, 1 OVA video, several soundtracks, 2 video games, a number of action figures, and toy guns based on the eponymous weapon of the series. Zillion even made its way across the sea to the USA and beyond, where a handful of episodes and the 2 video games were translated into English. The Zillion toy guns also appeared around the world in various forms. Sega's games and characters were seen in many episodes. The series was a success for all sides, Ni Tella, Tatsunoko, and Sega. It would only make sense to keep the ball rolling and set up for another series in 1988. Ni Tella was supportive of a new program, and Sega was eager as well. Tatsunoko was caught in a bit of a bind, however, as the time required to make a new series was just not available. Animation, by its very nature, is a time-consuming process. Episodes are planned well in advance, months before hitting the airwaves. With Tatsunoko working on Zillion, the follow-up OVA, and other productions, the company declined involvement on a new project. Instead, Ashi Productions would sign on, with Toho as the distributor. With Sega and Tatsunoko no longer working together, the rights to Zillion were divided up. Sega, as the designers of the Zillion gun, kept the rights to the Zillion outside of animation, continuing to sell Zillion as a laser relay game and as the light phaser video game gun for the Sega Master System. Tatsunoko would only retain the rights to the name Zillion in animation, including the title of the program and the weapons of that name used in anime. This new media mix began in 1987 as Zillion, the anime, the toy, and the video game were being consumed all across Japan. To keep the wave of momentum set up by Zillion, it was decided that this new program, planned for 1988, should be as close to that series as possible. The framework would mirror Zillion quite closely. A team of 3 young adults, 2 men and 1 woman, join an elite fighting squadron using powerful laser weapons and high-speed motorcycles to repel an otherworldly conquering army. Anyone who was familiar with Zillion would be able to make a connection quite easily. The power behind the weaponry and the speed of the motorcycles were strongly emphasized as being faster than the speed of sound. The guns, which are in essence the Zillion weapons, were called the Sonic Gun, Sonic Blaster, and Sonic Bazooka. The 3 heroes were Sonic Soldiers and were collectively named the Sonic Team. The heroes of the show were everyday people called upon to do their duty for humanity. As such, to convey their frailty as humans, the Sonic Soldiers would gain strength from cybernetic implants and robotic armor, transforming them into cyborgs, adding an element of Sentai into the series. Combining these 2 elements gave this program the perfect title. In Japanese, Choon Senshi Borgman. In English, Sonic Soldier Borgman. At 5 p.m. on Wednesday, April 13, 1988, the Sonic adventure hit the airwaves. In the year 1999, 4 meteorites, referred to as Yoma stones, fell to Earth, crashing into Tokyo, Japan. The impact was cataclysmic for the nation. Millions died, and society collapsed. In the following years, survivors rebuilt the area, transforming Old Tokyo into Megalo City. In the year 2030, an evil force has appeared, seeking to harness the power of the Yoma stones. These fallen meteorites have stood in place since 1999, and unbeknownst to nearly all from Megalo City, serve as an interdimensional gateway between Earth and the Yoma world, allowing the Yoma, a group of mysterious spiritual manifestations, to cross over and conquer the planet. The original 4 stones fell as part of a failed invasion decades ago. For the gate to be open, the stones need to be in the correct position, along with a 5th Yoma stone that has yet to be revealed. In the years that followed the Great Collapse, a group of scientists developed cybernetic implants known as Project Borgman. The enhancements work in conjunction with suits of armor that increase the wearer's power and offer extra protection. Designed with the intent of protecting humanity from an event like that which happened in the 1990s, the project was kept secret, lest it fell into the wrong hands. When the events of 2030 begin to unfold, 3 volunteers step up to the challenge. Together, they comprise the Sonic team. The first member is Ryo Hibiki. Born in 2013, he is 16 years old in the setting of the series. He once dreamed of being an astronaut, but that dream was crushed when the Yoma appeared, so he has joined Borgman to enact revenge against them. Ryo often works in tandem with his motorcycle, Thunder. Powered by AI, Thunder is a sentient being with the ability to transform and upgrade. The second member, Chuck Swagger, is 17 years old and from the United States. Ryo and Chuck have known each other for a while, training together before the events of the first episode. The third member, Anise Farm, is 16 years old, growing up in the countryside of rural America. Unlike Chuck and Ryo, she had no intention of joining Borgman, instead coming to Japan to advance her music career, only to find herself caught up in the battle with the Yoma. Memory Jean is the leader of Borgman. Slightly older than the 3 Sonic soldiers at age 22, she has a genius-level IQ that allows her to develop and maintain the Borgman program at such a young age with ease. Unlike her teammates, Memory separates personal feelings from the mission. Part of her demeanor stems from losing her younger brother, Reminisce, in events that happened prior to the first episode that become resolved later. The headquarters of Borgman are located in the basement of the Sonic Academy, where Memory serves as the principal, while Ryo teaches language, Anise teaches music, and Chuck teaches phys ed. There, the Sonic team develop a close relationship with the children of Megalo City, and many episodes involve them in some way. Shinji, Molly, Lando, and Toru are the students at the academy that have the closest relationship with their teachers. At the beginning of the series, the identity of the Sonic team is unknown, so when Ryo, Anise, and Chuck rescue the kids from danger, they are forced to keep who they really are a secret. Some of the children start to catch on, though, which leads to a moment about midway through the series where that secret is revealed. The children promise to keep their teachers' identities a secret, bringing the teachers and students closer together, forming a strong bond. On the other side is a group of rebels who intend to bring the Yoma into our world. The leader is Gilbert Mesh, a scientist who helped develop the Borgman project alongside Memory, but was seduced by power and turned to evil. In his research, Mesh learned the secret behind the Yoma stones, and that their correct placement will open the gateway to the Yoma world and resurrect their leader, allowing their armies to conquer Earth. With Mesh having knowledge of how the cybernetics in Borgman work, he has the ability to equip the potential Yoma invaders with Borgman armor, making them unstoppable. The group he leads calls themselves the Gil, though Borgman only refer to them as the Yoma. Joining Mesh is Dust Zeed, a hybrid of Borgman battle armor and the implanted brain of Reminisce, brother of Memory. Dust Zeed is unaware of his past life. However, through encounters with Memory, the two start to realize who Dust Zeed originally was. There are other members within Gil who offer support to Mesh, providing information and assistance needed to awaken the Yoma, waiting patiently for the day when the gate will finally open. The mood of the show is mostly dramatic, but that doesn't mean there aren't comedic moments. The backstory of the creation of Borgman and its members, past and present, are explored. Ryo and Anis start a relationship, though under the circumstances, it proves difficult. Major characters die, while others come pretty close. The students of the academy learn of the past that existed before they were born, a world they can't imagine. And without spoiling the ending too much, it all leads to a final battle between good and evil. Throughout the rest of 1988, Sonic Soldier Borgman aired on Nitella, with a total of 35 episodes. The finale took place that December. As the series was broadcast across Japan, Sega had toys and video games waiting in the wings for their half of this media mix.
Borgman Sonic System Super Thunder Set. Sega!
With Sega co-producing the anime series Zillion, which in turn led to a line of toys and 2 video games, while the next year brings a Sega co-produced show with a similar style on the same channel, Borgman, that then also becomes a video game and toy line. Drawing comparisons between the two is not difficult to do. With Borgman following Zillion, it might be easy to dismiss Borgman as Zillion 2, but it just isn't. Borgman is a separate series with its own identity, one that is quite different beyond the surface-level premise of 3 teens with laser guns on bikes. However, it might be more reasonable to refer to the Choan Senshi Borgman video game as Zillion 3. The graphical style and gameplay mechanics build on the 2 Zillion outings, creating a search and discovery game that fans of Zillion and Tri-Formation will have no problem appreciating. The game, Choan Senshi Borgman, was released for the Mark III and Master System in Japan on December 1st, 1988. Borgman has the distinction of being the final Mark III game developed by Sega that would be released in Japan. As well, the game features an enhanced soundtrack only available on the Master System, or Mark III with the FM sound upgrade. In the game, the player, as Ryo, must navigate the Yoma base in order to defeat Dust Zeed and stop the Yoma invasion. The game is broken up into 7 areas, with each one becoming accessible after finding the correct keycard, which opens the door to that respective area. The player can move left or right, but must also navigate a series of elevators that move up and down. The entire play area is featured on the map in the top right portion of the screen. To access some rooms, the elevators must be used in a certain order, as many of them don't reach every floor. A 3D radar scope is active in the top left portion of the screen. This alerts you when an enemy is nearby and how long until it reaches you. This setup imitates the viewfinder built into Ryo's helmet and is seen on occasion in some episodes. The 3D radar scope isn't just in the game to look cool. It serves an important purpose, as it will signify who the chief Yoma of each area are, being outlined in white, while normal enemies are outlined in red. The number on the screen is a counter for how many Chief Yoma remain. When all the Chief Yoma are defeated, Ryo can collect a keycard and move on to the next area. This setup gives the player a lot to balance mentally, as you have to pay attention to your position on the map, which floor you are on, and keep an eye on what's coming ahead. It forces the player to think on 3 planes: horizontal, vertical, and in 3 dimensions. In each area, memory will contact you with information about the mission and what to do. This mostly involves finding different weapon upgrades, as well as how to get around obstacles by equipping the weapons and armor found in each area. Due to a lack of buttons on the Master System controller, to view your inventory and equip these weapons, you must use button 1 or 2 on the second controller. If you only have 1 controller, the game is unplayable, as you must equip and use several items to clear obstacles throughout the game. Of the weapons you can choose, there are multiple punches and guns, including the Zillion. More powerful punches require psycho power and will drain the psycho power meter seen on screen, while damage from enemies naturally will drain your life meter. Some guns and types of punches do not drain the psycho power meter, and therefore are, in essence, unlimited. At the end of the final area, Ryo battles Dust Zed and stops the Yoma invasion. Anis and Chuck are not playable in the game at all, though they are seen in the ending wearing their Borgman armor. Borgman, the game, would make its way outside of Japan, just like Zillion before it. However, the game would undergo a few changes and be released as Cyborg Hunter in 1989. Activision published the game in the US, while Sega handled it elsewhere. The game is basically the same, except Ryo is renamed Paladin, and Dust Zed is now Viperon. The Yoma are not mentioned, though the cyborg theme is still present. Memory has been replaced with a woman named Adina, and the game is set in the year 2242, rather than 2030. Anis and Chuck are also renamed to Catherine and Trevor, but without any understanding of the source material, this must have been confusing to players, wondering who these characters were and why they aren't in the game. The other key change to the game is replacing the name Zillion with the ray gun. I would be remiss not to mention that Sonic Soldier Borgman, the anime, received some Sega product placement, not as much as there was in Zillion, but if you look closely, you will be rewarded. First, Ryo's motorcycle, Thunder, shares the same design of the bikes seen in the Super Hang-On arcade game, released in 1987. The blue and white color scheme is unmistakable. However, that game never provides a head-on view, and the motorcycle frame that is part of the arcade machine is not complete. Promotional artwork of Super Hang-On with a frontal view of the bike shows the connection. Blue Thunder, unrelated to the motorcycle, is an arcade game that appears in the background in episode 17. Blue Thunder was the basis of the game Thunderblade, first released in arcades in 1987. In the setting of Borgman, most artifacts from the 20th century were lost following the Great Collapse, so it makes sense that the classic Sega game would not be there. Instead, this clever homage makes up for it. Memory, the smartest person on the show, bears a striking resemblance to another book-smart person, the librarian in Phantasy Star 2, a game that was released only a few months after the conclusion of Borgman. Judy Totoya worked on both the Borgman game and Phantasy Star 2, so maybe these designs were more than just a coincidence. And it wouldn't be true to Sega form without a money shot of its flagship product. In episode 10, a young boy named Shiro, who was frozen alive in 1990, is discovered. To help him cope with awakening in the year 2030, Molly takes him to the Museum of the 20th Century, built in the year 2024. There, artifacts of the old way of life, like VCRs and Walkmans, are on display, as well as a Sega Master System. Shiro impresses Molly with his gameplay skills, racking up a score of nearly 8 million points in Afterburner.
Zillion Bazooka!
Sonic Soldier Borgman, the anime series and the video game, were well received by the public in 1988. It wasn't the only way to experience the world of Megalo City in the year 2030. Long before Borgman was even an idea, Sega had the Zillion light gun in production and on sale, not only in Japan, but in Brazil and the UK as well. With Borgman, the Zillion continued production, and at least in Japan, the toy sported all new packaging to reflect the fact that the guns used in Borgman were actually the same as those in Zillion, even if they were not named so in the series. Action figures of the entire Sonic team, as well as some members of the Guild, were sold in Japan in 1988. Each one was available as a standalone or in a deluxe package with a corresponding vehicle. For older enthusiasts, buildable model kits of these characters were also put on sale, starting in 1988. Like every anime series that comes down the line, a series of soundtracks were released for Sonic Soldier Borgman. Mainstay Japanese heavy metal band Earthshaker provided the opening and ending tema, with the song Don't Look Back included on the Earthshaker album Smash, released in 1988, while duets featuring Keiko Terada were released as a one-off group called Hips. Those songs later appeared on the solo album from Masafumi Nishida of Earthshaker. Another song recorded for the series, the transformation song Borg Get On, features the voice of Ryo's motorcycle Thunder on vocals. These songs, as well as others, received a home video release. Mad Night Gigs featured music videos containing songs from the series set to action scenes from various episodes. This release contains an extended scene of the finale that was not seen on TV, showing the graduation ceremony for Shinji, Molly, Lando, and Toru from Sonic Academy, as well as how they look all grown up. A drama album was also released in 1989 that had the Sonic team suiting up one more time to face a resurrected Dust Zed. The story continued with a second album in 1992. The story of Ryo, Anis, and Chuck after the year 2030 continued with 2 OVA episodes, Last Battle and Lover's Reign. The episodes take place 3 years after the events of the original series. The members of the Sonic team have moved on into other careers. Ryo begins astronaut training, while Anis works at a diner. Chuck is properly enlisted in law enforcement. When Ryo and Anis reach a breaking point in their relationship, Anis returns to Japan and is recruited by a cult named Heaven's Gate, which intends to replace all humans with cyborgs. Borgman is forced to reunite to prevent this plan from happening. In Lover's Reign, Borgman faces a legion of zombies intent on destroying Megalo City. These 2 episodes feature much less action than the proper series and focus more on the relationships the team members have formed since then. The character designs are different as well, reflecting the passage of time as Ryo, Anis, and Chuck appear older and more mature than they did back in 2030. Last Battle and Lover's Reign received a theatrical release and appeared on VHS and Laserdisc soon afterward. These 2 OVAs were the only episodes of Borgman released in English, appearing in the United States in 1990 on VHS, with a DVD reissue in 2004. These episodes were also released in Italy in 1993 under the title Borgman 2030, and years later received a proper broadcast on Italian TV, while the OVA set appeared in other languages around the world. 3 more OVA episodes were released in 1993. Borgman 2nd, New Century, 2058, takes place 25 years after the last battle. A new Sonic team is assembled, Ken, Coates, and Sarah. In the story, Ken, a police officer, is on the brink of death after an attack from a resurrected Yoma Master. Ken is revived thanks to surgical implants supervised by Chuck, who now runs Borgman as part of a larger corporation he founded in the future. The Yoma Master has kidnapped Ken's sister, Eliza, who is best friends with Sarah, one of the members of the new Borgman generation. It's up to the new Sonic team to rescue Eliza and stop the Yoma Master from harnessing the power of the Yoma Stones, which are still in place where they stood originally. As an OVA release, New Century wasn't subject to regulations that a standard television program would, and as such, features a much darker tone and more violent scenes than the original series. On June 29, 2022, the entire Choon Senshi Borgman series, all 35 episodes, Mad Night Gigs, Last Battle, Lover's Reign, and New Century were released in a Blu-ray box set. To commemorate the release, one Borgman episode, Ryo's Last Day, was broadcast on Tokyo MX at 11 p.m. the night before the box set was released.
Rayearth 2ゲームギアから
Following the finale of Sonic Soldier Borgman on December 13, 1988, Sega moved on to newer projects in video games, toys, and media mixes as well. Borgman was the final game that Sega developed for the Mark III and Master System in Japan. Support continued elsewhere around the world, but with the new 16-bit Mega Drive available since October 1988, Sega moved all game development there. A few early titles were licensed anime games, such as Osomatsu-kun and Mystic Defender. The next anime and game media mix Sega embarked on reached the airwaves in October 1989 with Magical Hat, a departure from the high-tech sci-fi sagas of Zillion and Borgman, featuring a colorful fantasy setting. Sega was involved with the production and turned the series into a video game. However, Sega participated in a reduced capacity compared to the previous two outings. As the 1990s began, Sega reverted to traditional sponsorship and licensing for anime and games. With the popularity of Sonic the Hedgehog, it was much easier for Sega to produce animation based on its new gaming star, rather than create things the other way around. As time moved on, Sega continued to develop products for a host of licensed properties and did return to collaborations now and then. In the 2020s, Sega's High Card stands as the most current collaboration between games, anime, and other products. For Sega Enterprises in Japan, it's always been about more than just a video game. It's about an experience, a lifestyle where the company can create multiple works that reach all kinds of media. Games, anime, toys, books, and you name it. With Sonic Soldier Borgman, the series, game, and toy line worked well alongside its older brother Zillion. And while not necessarily Sega's most famous Sonic Team or Sonic Adventure, Borgman was one of the best.